Item number 12, thank you, John, for stepping up. Discuss and possible action regarding annexation issue.
Those of you new to the council, been a year or two ago, time's gone by very fast. We talked about annexing some property into the city, specifically our water plant south of town. We talked about it and kind of really never went much further with it. However, some things have happened that have made this a little more interesting and probably have put a sense of urgency out there that we might need to consider if we want to do this or not. Our neighbors to the east, well, let me back up. Last year, the legislature passed a new law, Senate Bill 6. And Senate Bill 6 has what is called a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 county. A Tier 1 county is generally a county with less than 500,000 population, which obviously we fall in, as well as our neighbors to the east. Our neighbors further to the east, obviously, are a Tier 2 county, which is over 500,000 and above, and the neighbors further to the east are as well. So there is a provision in Senate Bill 6, though, that upon a petition in an election, petition to the county commissioners, election has to be held to become a Tier 2 county. Well, Parker County has had such a petition presented to them. An election has been called for November. Why does that affect us? Well, being as that part of our city's in Parker County, Section 43.001 of the Local Government Code says any city that's wholly or partly in a county that becomes a Tier 2 county becomes a Tier 2 city. So it's very, in my opinion, a very poorly written law, but nobody cares what I think. So we have to deal with the reality of the situation here. So I believe that this measure is going to pass in Parker County, that Parker County will become a Tier 2 county, which will severely limit our annexation ability going forward. And my understanding is that once that election happens, that they will become a Tier 2 city then. So we have till November to do any annexations that we want, and then we become dead in the water, essentially. So, that being said, we have made contingency plans of sorts based upon this eventuality to start annexing to south to our water plant, which is property that we own, essentially, to bring into the city. There's a lot of benefits to doing it. Right now, if there's any kind of an incident out there, it would fall to the county to handle it, the sheriff's office and I guess the volunteer fire department. Is that right? Yes. So it's a piece of property that we own, essentially, that we have really no control over in the event there's an incident, for one. And if we essentially own it, why isn't it in our city? So those are just things to consider. So now that we are facing this deadline of potentially becoming a Tier 2 city from a poorly written law by the legislature, we need to make some decisions about what we want to do. Now, again, as staff has made some contingency plans, so we could go ahead and begin the annexation process to get down there. And that's all we're talking about, is getting to the water plant. We're not talking about going to Interstate 20 or anything like that. We're just talking about getting down to the water plant. And we can talk about the mechanics and everything about it later, because there's a lot of things we need to work out. But I guess really what we're looking for from council at the moment is some direction on what your thoughts are about doing that knowing that, and of course our attorney's here, if you have any legal questions, general legal questions about it, and I've read quite a bit up on this and talked to TML Legal about this as well. But assuming that election goes through November in Parker County, which again I think pretty solidly that it will, we will become a Tier 2 city, and we will be the only Tier 2 city in Palo Pinto County. So every other city in Palo Pinto County will be able to annex all they want, subject to general law rules, of course, and any of the legislative mandated rules in effect. We won't. We will be dead in the water.
So when you talk about annexing south to the water plant, does that take any residential areas from here to there, or are you just carving out that one portion of land?
Well, annexations do have to be contiguous, so we really would have to look at that, but really it's just pretty much ag land between here and there for the most part. I mean, we'd have to really look at it, and we'd have to come back with a better strategy, but right now we're just talking conceptually. I mean, we'd have to work out the details, which we're not quite there yet.
How far is this?
About 6-7 miles,
7 miles.
roughly.
Is there any other direction we're considering going besides south?
Well, we haven't really discussed anything else. That was really the primary impetus of what we as staff have talked about. Now, of course, council has any other ideas, certainly staff will be, at your direction. We can work with whatever you want us to do.
Are there any other city properties lingering out in the outlying areas? The fossil park, I would guess, is sort of not connected to the city. Is there anything else?
I have to defer to the city manager on that. I'm not aware of anything.
No, that's really the primary facility that's outside the city limit.
My thought would be if there's a consensus among the council to ask you guys to continue to move forward and give us some direction in this, I certainly would want to include looking west. I believe that supports the water line we just approved going out there, which allows us the opportunity for expansion west, and so I certainly would want that in consideration as well.
So just for clarification, out towards the fossil park, or to bring the fossil park in, is that just for clarity? Or are you just talking about?
That would be good parameters to begin with, yes, to bring at least far enough to bring the fossil park in, and if it, really early in consideration, so I don't know that we could really go that far, but that would be a good place to start, and then we can adjust.
Okay, now of course there's always a lot, annexation law is very complicated and convoluted, so.
I understand completely. That's why I'm thinking I don't know that we can get there, but it's a starting place, and we'll just have to see how that works. But as just a general thought, in support of putting the water line in out west, thinking that that might be a possible opportunity for us to look at some places for the industrial expansion that is on everyone's mind. It's something we certainly should look at if we're going to look at annexation at all.
I have a question. I assume there will be some financial ramifications in the sense that don't you have to provide city services into the annexed areas? I mean, I don't expect you to have numbers, but.
Well, those are some of the things we're looking at right now. That's a great question. But again, we're looking at a number of options. And that is one of them for sure.
I know they change the laws all the time. The last time I was familiar, I think you had 3 years to provide those services. But yes, there are some financial obligations that would come with it.
Yeah, I think staff needs to look into it and kind of give us a better idea of what we're looking at. but with the timeline of November, you know, I think it's something we need to get the ball rolling on. Just get back to us.
We could come back, we'll do everything we can to come back at the next meeting with something.
Yeah.
And so I guess, do we need a motion, anything from them, or is just a direction from you?
Yeah.
All right. So just so I'm clear, we're getting direction from council to go south to the water plant, or water plant, and west to the fossil park. Is that clear?
Yes,
Am
sir.
I right? Okay.
Yes,
You have a question, Mr. Enfield?
May I ask?
Actually, John, are you finished?
I am.
Yeah, I don't think we have any other discussion up here. Were there any questions from the audience? Did you have a question, Mr. Enfield? If so, could you come up to the microphone, please?
Yes, sir.
My name is Vincent Hemphill. I live at 4112 Northeast 5th Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
My question is for John. I mean, can I address him? Is that
No, you need to address the
okay?
council, sir.
And maybe y'all can answer it. So, John was talking about speaking that we're going to be into a tier 2 because Mineral Wells is partly into Parker County. So I didn't hear it about what that it is entitling us to. What's the benefits? What's the pros? What's the cons? What actually happens? So is there anything bad that happens? Anything? I mean, what does it mean?
Sounds like it limits your annexation
It-
authority.
Correct.
That's it? That's all it does?
So the other towns around us will be able to annex the land surrounding us, and we won't have the opportunity to after November if Weatherford decides to vote.
And that's it though? There's nothing
That's
else?
correct.
Just, okay, fair enough. Awesome, thank y'all.
Cheers.
That's it.